What's going on? What's going on? Welcome back. Welcome back, men of prestige, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the platform. We have a little bit of something to cover today. We're going to have a good time as usual. Today, I want to bring you up to speed what I've been up to, with what the world has been up to. And as usual, my job here is to extract some of the lessons from all the topics that's going on around the world. There's a lot of things that's going on around the world. A lot of things are going on around the world. And my job is to basically extract all of the lessons and hopefully we can improve the quality of our lifestyles. One of the things that I'm working on is basically an opportunity for us to build a community together to work on ourselves and basically improve basically be able to design your life, live life by design, right? A lot of people would argue that that's not possible, but it's actually very possible. Not only is it possible with what are some of the things that I'm laying out for you here, it becomes very probable, at least a lot more probable than just leaving it in the hands of fate, right? So, without any further ado, the couple of things I wanted to cover today, I'm going to try to cover it to the best of my knowledge. We're going to talk about dowries, bride prices, the culture of dowries and bride prices around the world. We're also going to dig in through some of the meanings that we can find online. You and I will do it together, but also want to do that with respect to DV, right? Domestic, the abuse and things like that in the household. We want to link it together because there's some video clips that I was able to pull from my sister Obodo Oyibo's uh, platform that I want us to really look at together. I was supposed to have a guest here, but for some reason I don't see him right now, so it's okay. Nonetheless, the show must go on. Um, Gentlemen, it's our responsibility to lead the world that we live in. It's our responsibility to create structure, safety, and security for the world that we live in. It's our responsibility to build the institutions that makes life a little bit more easier for us. Now, if you're liking what I'm doing here, please just do me a favor. Just simply hit the like button, share, subscribe. But I guarantee you, I will keep showing up. Okay, I'll keep showing up. But I have a lot more stuff behind the scenes that I'm working on to help us here. Okay. There was a story that I shared with you, the story of a lady called Osinachi some few shows ago, where she basically her life was terminated from a domestic situation, right? And the last thing we want to let me just make sure that audio is working. All right, good, awesome. The last thing we want is we don't want that to be happening, right? Unfortunately, this is life. Casualties, bad things will happen, and hopefully we can prevent that. And that's why I wanted to bring you this topic today. I own you. Obviously, I'm not saying that, but are women properties? Are they properties in certain parts of the world, right? Are women properties in certain parts of the world? Are they supposed to be properties? If you paid dowry, if you paid some kind of bride price, does that make her your property, right? Is this just culture? There's so many things, right? So again, we find that this has turned to some kind of gender war within certain conversations, but it really doesn't have to be. I think we can all benefit from having this conversation. And the best way you can have that conversation with me is to use the comment area. Once I finish taping this video, you see some of these clips. So please go ahead and hit the like button to increase the chances that you will continue to see my videos in your feed. All right. So, without any further ado, gentlemen, if we don't pay attention, this is what's going to happen to you. Okay. And if you try to compete with women with the game that we are playing right now, either you realize it or not, this is all a game. And I say that to make sure that you understand that you have to learn certain skill sets. I cover 7 different areas where I feel like you need some of the skill set that I'm sharing with you here. And I am speaking from experience. I'm speaking from results. Everything I say is results based. So I don't speak from my butt. If there's any one of these things that I'm not yet getting the results, I basically would not share that with you. And number one is career. Number two, dating. Number three, relationship. Number four, marriage. Number five, parenting. That last episode, right? We talked about parenting, right? Number six, business. Number seven, last but not least, is real estate. That's basically how I started my life. And I have some, I got some results and I can share some methodologies, strategies of how I was able to do that. All those seven things I've done very well in them at the age of 42. So I can share one or two things with you as you're embarking on your own journey. But if you struggle with any of these things, especially with the dating, relationship, and marriage part, you may find yourself in this kind of situation.
Hey! 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 Yo! Get with me, nigga! Help me! What's wrong with you, nigga?
Come on! Where my glasses?
Get off of me before I drop your goofy ass again. Now beat that, bitch ass nigga. Pay for this shit. Hurry up.
No,
Pay for that shit and hurry up before I drop your ass again. Touch me, then I'm gonna drop you.
Stop video for they help me. You got my key.
Somebody help you.
All right. So if you don't want to find yourself in that situation, then definitely want to pay attention to what we're doing here. Ladies, please feel free to plug in as well. You're welcome to take part in some of this conversation. All right. So there's this. Let's go through some of the things that's happening in the world first. There's this video. Let me share that video with you really quickly. With Shaquille O'Neal. There you go.
You controlled your life forever. You can't control that.
Like I could have.
But you can't.
No, I couldn't.
It's two people that involved in the divorce, bro.
Yeah, but no, I never talked about this, and I'm glad you guys are asking because I don't mind talking about this. But I was bad. She was awesome. She really was. It was all me. I was just look. We don't need to talk about what I was doing, but I wasn't protecting her and protecting those vows. So sometimes when you live that double life, you get caught up in. So I'm not gonna say it was her. It was all me because she was. Look, she did exactly what she's supposed to do. Gave me beautiful kids, take care of the house, take care of corporate stuff. It was just all me. Sometimes when you make a lot of mistakes like that, you can't really come back.
With the divorce.
All right. So this is shout out to Shade Room. This is Shaquille O'Neal basically admitting to his responsibility, taking responsibility for his divorce from his wife Shani O'Neal, who is also a star on reality TV shows in the past few years. But apparently they were married. Not apparently, they were married, and they have a bunch of children together. Right now, Shaquille is a superstar, still a superstar. Was a hell of a superstar, right? With the Lakers as a basketballer. So with success comes a lot of responsibilities. Basically, women will throw themselves at you if you're a basketballer, and if you don't have self-control, you probably won't be able to sustain that, right? So now, what I found interesting about this clip was this part. Let me play this for you really quickly.
You controlled your life forever. You can't control that.
Like I could have.
But you can't.
So he said, now I didn't get the full context to be fair, right? He said, you control your life forever, but you couldn't control that. And he said, I could. See, I went through something similar, and not divorce, but I did go through a situation where my wife filed for divorce. It was just never finalized. I tell people all the time, I'm not speaking from my ass. I'm speaking from experience, right? And I was able to put my household back together successfully, something that most men in that situation are like. Once a woman files for divorce, it's damn near impossible for you to come back from that, usually, for multiple different reasons, right? Because obviously a lot of things are broken down to a certain place for you to be able to come back from that. But I was able to come back from it. So part of the reasons why I was able to come back from it was is basically what you're looking at Shaquille doing here, which is taking responsibility for your role as a leader in the situation, not taking responsibility of your role as an equal. See, this is the part where people struggle a lot in marriage. Everyone is trying to compete with each other. And the saddest part is whoever is claiming to be the leader is also trying to compete with the other person. See, I didn't say anything about being the man or the woman or anything like that, right? I said whoever was claiming to be the leader is actively competing with whoever they're trying to lead. This is a great way to demonstrate that you're not a leader. Some people misconstrue that with, oh, so we shouldn't hold people accountable. Yes, that's part of your problems because again, you're confused. Do you want to be a leader or you don't want to be a leader? If you want to be a leader, you take responsibility for the results you create. It's very, very simple. But I get it. Once you get into a place when you're emotionally caught up, you start to feel like, what about me, right? Well, when you do what about me, you're actively playing equal with the other person. You're buying into the idea of equality with a woman if you're a man. Okay? And if you're a woman and you want to claim to be equal partners, and then you're always busy pointing fingers, you are basically committing the same fraud. Okay? In one breath you want to be equal, in the other breath uh, you don't want to assume at least 50% of the responsibility. He made you do this, he made you do that, he made you see. That's where the confusion comes in, right? But the truth of the matter is that when you're playing the romantic game of life, either by way of a relationship or by way of a marriage, you don't get to do the equal fairness thing. That's not how that works. The only game you can play is complementing each other, coming together and becoming whole, right? How do you come together and become whole? It's not 50-50. And dare I say it, is not 100-100 either. That's the same shit. Okay, that's the same thing. I mean, have you ever done math before? Do you know some math? 50-50 and 100-100 is the same shit. Okay, you need to come as a whole and take responsibility for the romantic relationship you subscribe to. That's number one. The role you play is either you're playing the masculine role or you're playing the feminine role, right? Either way, you're playing a wholesome role if you're going to build anything meaningful out of this. Okay. Now, this is especially true for you if you're a man in the society that we live in today. And that's what we're looking at Shaquille O'Neal. That's what we're looking at him demonstrating here. But you can see that the look on the gentleman's face, it was a little confused, like, oh, he takes two. No, he never takes two. This is the kind of wrong thing we've been telling ourselves. It never takes two to start. It takes two to keep the machine rolling. I agree with that part, right? It takes a well-oiled machine to keep things going steady. But to start, it takes the leverage point, whatever that leverage point is. If you're trying to start a car, it takes a key, right? Or if you know what you're doing, you can go in the hood and maybe, it takes one cable wire. It doesn't take trying to operate all of the different parts of the engine at the same time. It takes the leverage point. It's the same thing in marriage. It's something you're not going to hear anywhere else, most likely. Okay? It takes you to start that engine, right? Now, obviously, you're going to create some kind of dance because you're an influential body in that situation, in that context, right? You're going to create some kind of dance. And now being able to respond to every move accordingly and being able to create some kind of harmony is the next key. Then you can start to say it takes two. At least you need the other person responding to you, right? But that's also a function of how much patience do you have, right? It depends on how much damages you've created in the spirit of trying to play equal with your partner, especially if you're a man, in the spirit of trying to play fairness, the fairness game. You want to be you want to be in a romantic relationship or you want to be fair. You have to pick one, right? The reason why you're in that romantic relationship was simply reason why you started, right? Was simply because you like this person, right? You like that person, right? And then you started a dance. Then they took some interest, and then you start to go back and forth, right? 3 step forwards, 2 step backwards, and then it looks like a perfect harmony made in heaven. what do you call it? It's a match made in heaven, right? That's what it looks like on the outside. But the truth of the matter is that it took one person to start, to make that move. And sometimes when situations get broken down in a relationship, it's going to take one. And that's where humility comes in. Humility is a massive ingredient in creating the kind of synergy that you're looking for in a romantic relationship. Humility, because at some point, sometimes, not all the time, by the way, because some of you are hearing this as all the time, I gotta be I gotta be the bigger person. No, I'm saying yes, if you can at least look at it as a leverage point, if you can look at it as a powerful place to be when you know that you're able to basically control this person like a puppet just because you're able to see things a little bit differently, right? Now you can see the other way around and say, nah, if she's not gonna come to the table equal, I don't want to be a part of it. Well, exactly. You're making it transactional. And it wasn't meant to be transactional. It was a romantic relationship, right? Like, so it's either you like this person or you don't like them. Now you can decide, you always have the power to decide that, yeah, I don't like them. I'd rather just move on. And that's perfectly fine too. But you create the result you create, and you have to eat that L if it's an L, or eat that win if it's a win. It just may be a win, but you have to be willing to see things as what they are and be able to accept the truth. Some of you just make noise about truth all day long, but you really don't like to hear the truth. The truth is that this is a romantic relationship, and that's what Shaquille is telling us here, right? If you say, "Hey, no, no, I'll take," that's my fault. People start to look at you like, "Oh yeah, you're subjugating yourself. Like, don't beat yourself up or anything like that." But actually, it's a very powerful place to be if you understand that this was a romantic relationship. If you're not showing, he's holding himself accountable. Like, listen, I did not honor that situation, right? Let's listen to it one more time, right?
You controlled your life forever. You can't control that. Like,
I could have.
but you can't.
No, I could have.
It's two people.
He said, "How could have?" He said, "But you can't." Actually, he could. It's called influence. He's not trying to control. He understands now today. I don't know how many years later, 15, 10, 20 years later. He said, listen, with what I know today, I have the power to influence my wife in either direction. I have that power. And yes, women do have that power to also influence their husband, right? There are absolutely buttons, we call them the Momo buttons, that you can press to damn near control your spouse, but in an influential way, not in a way that they start to feel like you're abusing them, but in a way that you are actually influencing them and not controlling them. Because some of you don't understand what it means to be controlling. To be controlling means you're proactively trying to control another person with your own stupid rhetorics, limited rhetorics, your own belief system, but you don't understand that it's actually much more powerful to lead with value. That's called influence. It's much more powerful to lead with value than to lead with just something you see as value. Because when I say value, then you have to pay attention to the fact that value is in the eyes of the beholder, right? It's the same. That's again, it goes back to the topic of today. I own you. You really don't own anybody, including your own children. You don't. You just don't own anybody. So I don't care how much bride price you paid, right? I don't care. Like, let me just make sure. Okay. I don't care how much bride price you paid. I don't care how much dowry you paid. You don't own anybody. Okay? And that's what Shaquille is trying to say here. Like, listen, I could have, but this guy is busy saying it takes two because, again, he's trying to play the fairness game. Now, there are contexts. Keep me in context. There's a context where, yes, it will absolutely take two. Once you start to feel like you're pouring out of an empty cup, it's a feeling. Okay? If you feel like you're pouring out of an empty cup, it's usually an indication that you haven't taken care of yourself. You don't have enough self confidence. You don't have self respect. You don't have self love. You've become a doormat, right? And if you start to feel that way, then you're just being the only thing, you're only coming from a place of Mr. Nice Guy, and that's not going to work out either, right? But if you can find a space in your head where you realize, nah, this is family. This is my wife. I'm the leader. So if there's a temporary situation where I have to lead the way, where to a lame ass person on the outside, it may look like I'm subjugating myself, right? If I can find my way to say, hey, listen, I'm in control here. Let me lead. Let me hear what you have to say. Let me make sure she gets everything she has to say out. That's one of the problems with a lot of people. They don't know how to let people get everything out, right? They need to say something. I need to say something too. Can I speak? Can I speak? And then you end up in a toxic argument with her. Then you lose because you're right, right? So yes, you could be right, but you still lost the game, right? And that's the part I'm trying to play, and that's what Shaquille is trying to say here, right?
People that involved in divorce, bro.
Yeah, but no, I never talked about this, and I'm glad you guys are asking
He
because I
said,
don't
"Nah."
mind talking about that. But I was bad. She was awesome. She really was. It was.
She was awesome. A lot of men don't know how to speak about their ex-wife like this. They say, but what if she's not really awesome? You're missing the point. Again, you're trying to play equal, you're trying to be right, you need to be honest, right? But you're effectively losing, you're forgetting that you are a powerful and influential person if you know how to use it, right? You're probably focused on the worst part about that relationship, okay? If you just take accountability, right? If you take responsibility and you do like a little inventory and then you focus on the best part about her, you may just be able to find yourself in a place where you say, actually, she wasn't that bad. And then you can easily switch, because it's all perspectives at the end of the day. It's all perspective. And you have the power to attach meanings to the events that happen in your life. You do have that power, right? You can either say that person was an evil person, or you can say, oh, that person, yeah, we're just not a fit. She was a good person, but we're just not a fit. You could change all that all you want. It just depends on your outlook and perspective on life. And whatever you chose can actually determine your future, can determine how you move into the future. Okay? You have the power to determine the meaning of the events that happen in your life, right? You have that power, right? There's some of them that's just outright, blatantly, nah, this is what it is. For the most part, it's not that case. For the most part, it's actually perspectives. It's something you could literally switch and say, nah, she's a good person. And I tell you, find your way. If you are a divorcee, find your way to the good part about that because you married them. There was something that you really liked about them and focus in on that and speak well of your ex. It multiplies back and it comes right back at you. I promise you. This is not me asking you to take the higher road. No, no. This is me telling you to engage your power. This is completely a power play. Okay? You need to find your way out of that space where you're speaking very negatively about your ex. It will hurt you. You will hurt yourself. What's going on? Oh, will I be my brother? Thank you so much, man. Thank you for stopping by. This means a lot for you to stop by because, yeah, man, my guy, you know I'm a fan. So thank you so much. So many people out here giving relationship advice that just makes you feel good without taking action. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I saw your comment, by the way, on the other video. Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, I'm not here to make you feel good. I'm here to give you, I'm here to give you the power to take control of your own life, right? In the temporary, it may not feel as good because, let's be frank, somebody may have taken your heart and pull it out and stomp all over it. Yes, I agree. That may have happened. But if you dwell in that place, right? Listen, you may have been a victim. That's what I'm saying, right? But if you dwell in that place, meaning you continue to perpetually play the victim, you will hurt yourself even more. Because the way it works is completely influence. It's power and influence. It's power and influence. That's how this whole thing is not fair. Life no balance. Okay, stop looking for balance, stop looking for fairness, unless this is completely a business transaction, in which case there's an open marketplace and you have options. But once you involve the heart, once you involve the heart either now, in the past or in the future, especially if you have kids with this person, the last thing you want to do is to start playing the victim and start saying things like, nah, she was just an evil person, or find yourself in an echo chamber where they're rubbing salt on your injury. I don't know, maybe it's sugar, whatever, right? Let me stop with the comparison. But you get the point, right? Where they're making you feel good about yourself, but you're not really working. You're not looking in the mirror. You're not taking responsibility for your own life.
Me. I was just, look, we don't need to talk about what I was doing, but I
Now,
wasn't.
now, why should you wait until you're 55? I don't know how old Shaquille is. Why? Why can't you do that when you're 32 as a divorcee? Why can't you say, you know what? Fuck that. I made a mistake. You know what? Yeah, I subscribe to that relationship too. I made a choice to be in it. She was a good person. I bought into something, but I saw some other side. It wasn't compatible, but she's a great person. If you say that behind her, you say that to her face, I'm telling you, you have a lot more power than you do think you have right now. But if you go into an echo chamber where they're talking extremely bad about all the women for the streets, and you've now found a way to relate with that story, and you lump your ex into it, right? And then you go and then you present yourself, maybe you drop the babies off. She can feel the energy because we're human beings, we're also spirits, and we have incredible radar for bullshit. And no matter how she can feel it, right? She can feel it, and guess what? She will multiply, and vice versa. Even if you're a woman, you need to learn how to speak well of the people in your life, even if they're not perfect. I think we're both agreeing that they're not perfect, right? Now, how bad they are, I don't know. There are some terrible people in this life. I get it. There's some really bad people in this world. I know, right? But for the most part, it's just good people doing bad things. Like yourself, you may not realize how bad you were, right? It's just good people doing bad things for the most part, right? I know everybody wants to pull out all the extreme case scenario, right? They want to pull out that woman that that basically was just evil. She's always yelling, or she whacked something on your head or something like that. That's bad. That's terrible. If you're in that kind of situation, seek help. But usually that's not what we're talking about. Usually what we're talking about is emotional. Like you just need to be right. You were actively competing with her. You were buying into the equality nonsense, right? You don't know the difference between saying, "Oh, babe, you're a feminist." All right, sure. You don't know the difference between that and actually buying into it and then start to play a feminist in a romantic relationship. You will hurt yourself. You're walking around town talking about, yeah, we do 50-50. 50-50 will hurt you in this social construct as a man. All right. So, yeah, let me see here.
I wasn't protecting her and protecting those vows.
I wasn't protecting her. I wasn't protecting those vows. I know exactly what he's talking about. Maybe you're not a cheater. Maybe you were not cheating on your wife like probably Shaquille was, right? Maybe you weren't. Okay. Can I tell you something? Can I bust your bubble? It's probably actually worse because you probably think you deserve more because you're a perfect, nice guy. That's actually where you fucked up. That's where you messed up. Because the feminine energy don't care. This is a romantic relationship. Again, you're disengaged from your actual power. You're disengaged from your power. Your power is not in trying to play Mr. Nice Guy. Your power is not in trying to be right. Your power is knowing how to stimulate this woman from a romantic place. Okay? Sexually. Your power is learning how to create sexual polarity. Nothing else. Okay? Nothing else. Okay? Everything else is for your own good. If you want to be a nice guy, you want to be a good guy, you want to be perfect, you want to be a religious, that's for you. You want to be a virgin, you want to be a celibate, that's for you. Your responsibility in the romantic relationship is to learn how to stimulate your partner, is to learn how to create sexual polarity. The same thing goes for you too, ladies. You need to learn how to create sexual polarity. Trying to play the man in a romantic relationship, oh yeah, I like partnership, that kind of stuff. If you don't know where the limitations are, you're gonna hurt yourself. You're gonna hurt your relationship. All right. So it's the same thing with the. Okay, so let me play this video for you. Let me play a few videos for you from my sister Obodo Oyinbo, and this is basically women trying to play equal too. Everybody is trying to bring everything down to exact science, and that's a fast way to lose in romantic relationship. The real issues with DV, okay, domestic, the other word that rhymes with use, but the abnormal versus of use, domestic abnormal use, right? Let's call it that. Just take out the normal part, right? Right. Um, it's not by eliminating. You don't really solve that problem by eliminating bride price or eliminating any version of culture. All right. So let me play some of this video for you, and then we'll dive in.
So for me, my father he took whatever bride price was given, and he gave it right back because he just felt, look, are we selling? And so what are we doing? There's no need for this.
All right. So from the Yoruba culture in Nigeria, for those of you that may not be familiar, they actually give back the money that they bring with the bride price from certain parts, not all of them. Now, this culture can vary greatly from town to town, from state, from tribe to tribe, even from dialect to dialect, from street to street. It can vary because the truth is that some greed has entered the situation. When money is involved, when goods and products and nice things are involved, right? You best believe that greed will enter the situation. So it's not as pure as people try to make it to be, a bride price or arranged marriage, all this nonsense that people are throwing around from a cultural standpoint. People think it's perfect. None of those things are perfect. There's no human culture anywhere that's perfect. When there's human emotions involved, greed enters it, fear also engages in it, and people are people. Let me see here.
Just do whatever needs to be done to appease the umuna. But for me, I'm good. And I definitely was not for sale. But as I've spoken to different people, for instance, I have this employee who got married a few years ago. He's from the East. He married a girl from somewhere in the North, and he said, why he married her was not because he was in love with her, or because her own bride price they cheap. Make him buy the one. Let him marry the one you can afford. That from my side, I know I can't cope. I can't cope with the girls from my place. It's just too much.
All right. So before we dive in too deep into this, let's just look at bride price really quickly and dowry. Some people say there's a difference between the two. Again, we're talking about bride price and dowry as it relates to a domestic abnormal use of a human being, right? Uh, let's see, bride price. Let's look at if we find anything on. So bride price, bride wealth, or bride token is money, property, or other form of wealth paid by a groom or his family to the woman or the family of the woman he will be married to and is just about to marry. So again, last week I talked about the story of this lady that got terminated because of domestic violence with her husband. And a lot of people are now starting to dig up many reasons why people find themselves in this situation. There's a lot of men that will, during the fight between them and their spouse, will say, "Hey, I've paid for you," especially in Nigerian or African, very cultural environments, right? They will say, "I've paid your bride price," right? Not only that, if you go back to your mother's house as a woman, you go back to your family house, your father may just say, "Hey, listen, this guy paid the bride price. You have to go back to your husband's house," right? Even if you're going through abuse, right? Now, that's terrible. There's no need to sugarcoat or sugar paint or paint that in any kind. Or there's no need to sugarcoat that, right? That's terrible that anyone will think because they paid certain amount of money, right, in exchange for a wife, that now they should become a punching bag. That's just bad, right? I mean, do we really need to go back and forth about this, right? But that's what they're talking about, right? That's bride price. Now, there was a guy that came on this panel that said, "Hey, there's a difference between bride price and dowry," right? Now, I think we can agree that this sounds pretty accurate. Now, this is a BBC News, right? My husband can't afford me. Let's look at this, right? All right, so this is the culture. This is what's going on. Okay, let me just go ahead and turn this to a MacBook speaker so we can see what this says. Let's see if we can get this to play.
CFO, caregiver, eclipse chaser, a Raymond James financial advisor Taylor's advice to help you live your life.
Awesome,
That's
awesome.
life well planned.
All right. So this is it, right?
This is a wedding in South London. The bride grew up near here, but as a
All right. So I don't want to play the music so we don't get flagged here unnecessarily. All right. So this is the we call this the traditional engagement in Nigeria, right? Um, this looks like it's Ghana, but this is similar in a lot of ways, right? Um, yeah. So anyway, yeah. So they do like in Nigeria at least we do like three different events. I think some people still do that. Some people are trying to lump it up into at least two, at most two events, maybe one event now. But basically, you do the traditional wedding, right? And then you do the white wedding. We call it the white wedding. Can you imagine, right? But that's what we call it, the white wedding, right? And then we do the reception, right? So there's three events that you have to basically produce, right? So it's a three event production, right? Big production, people spend for the most part, I think people spend minimum of $50,000 minimum. That's minimum. Average, I'm not sure these days because even just the reception all by itself these days people can spend up to $6,000 just to secure the event location, right? So it's very expensive, right? So now that's just the wedding. But in addition to that, especially from the eastern part of Nigeria, those are the people that I'm actually talking about right now today. They have to pay the bride price, right? And the bride price for in my case, I got married in 2007. Um, they took all of the yams, cola nuts, and like all the produce stuff. They take those, including some clothings, right? That you have to package and take to your wife's family, right? But they return the money that was in the envelope, right? So the money actually would represent the bride price, but then they return it and they in at least from Yoruba land. My wife is from Abeokuta. They returned it, and the idea is that we don't want to sell our child. They took everything like the produce, the yam, all that. They took that, but the money they returned that because they say we don't want to sell. Now, it's not everyone that does that. Like there are certain people that don't return the money, right? As a matter of fact, they've abused it in many areas. Okay, they've abused that in many areas where not only they actually, I heard on this particular live stream that I just played a little clip for you, that they would actually get into uh they would start bidding what do you call it, like auction. They would start auctioning the the young lady, right? And they will start, they start like that, like an auction, like bidding and bidding and bidding, and have all the families start bringing up more money, right? But even before you get into all of that, there's a certain set price. There's a list of things that you have to bring, right, in order to uh, fully pay your bride price, right? So anyway, let me see here. I don't view the bride price as me being paid for, right? Again, it's perception. Everything is perception. The reason why we're talking about this, people are starting to blame domestic abnormal use violence on the fact that people put a price on a human being. So now some lame ass men out there are starting to make it an excuse to abuse their wife and say, "Hey, I've already paid for you, so I can do whatever I want," right? And we know that that doesn't make any sense. So now some people are saying, if you're going to be saying that, we need to abolish the whole idea. We need to abolish the whole idea of bride price altogether. That's what they're saying. And it's a big part of the culture. It's a big part of the customs of our forefathers, right? So just because some people are abusing it, does that mean we have to abolish it? First of all, who are you going to get to agree to abolishing it? The king's man or the king or the king's maker, or exactly who's going to vote this into law, right? To abolish a big part of the of customary um, practices, right? Again, some people will abuse anything. Now, some people will say, "Hey, but it's making people abuse." But that is it really what's making them, or abusers are just abusers, right? See, abusers, regardless, there's abusers everywhere in the world. There's abusers here in the United States. They don't pay bride price here. Anyway, let me go back to take it. We're gonna come back and read this, but let's look at dowry. Somebody said it's different. That dowries is actually money that's donated to the. This gentleman that was on the platform said dowries is money that's donated and put together for the new couple to start their own lives. That doesn't sound right, but let's find out. Right? Let's see here. Dowry, property or money brought by a bride to her husband on their marriage. That's close to what he said. So it's actually the bride that bring this money to the husband on their marriage. Now we know that to be true. I've heard that to be true in India. But they're kind of making this like it's true for everywhere. I know it's not true for Nigeria. The bride don't pay nothing, okay, in Nigeria. A dowry is a payment such as a property or money paid by the bride's family to the groom. So I think that's the real meaning of dowry. Let me look at dowry. Okay, dowry is not plural. I think. All right. Dowry versus bride price. Let's look at that. These payments can be categorized into two: dowry and bride price. The dowry, more common in Asian countries, okay, involves payment made by the bride to the groom. Again, I'm learning that for the first time. And his family. He said it. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. See, we in Nigeria we use dowry and bride price interchangeably. Again, this is why you never assume. Because when you assume, you speak out of your own ass. Basically, you're making an ass out of you and you, right? It's always important to ask more questions, no matter how big you get or how big your platform is. Just ask more questions, right? It still doesn't change some of the fundamentals we're going to talk about in a second, right? And his family. Bride price, on the other hand, refers to the payment that a prospective groom and his family make to a prospective bride and a family. Okay, so today we're not talking about dowry. We're talking about bride price. And the idea is that if you put a price on a human being, that decreases their value. All right, so from a technical standpoint, I could see that, right? From a technical standpoint, I could see that, but that's a little bit of a stretch. Okay, that's a stretch a little bit there, right? What's going on, Rashawn? Thank you so much. Thank you for stopping by. Right? That's a stretch. That's a stretch, right? So again, is bride price. We're talking about bride price. Is bride price the reason why people abuse their wives? See, people run their mouth. People say what they want to say. That doesn't equals to truth. And you know, people always run around and say, "Hey, I'm just speaking the truth." It's bullshit for the most part, right? You have to look at people's actions, and then you have to assess things. Look at the results. Result is actually closer to truth than anything else, right? And then truth is a function of time and patience, right? Time will tell. Time will tell us the actual truth, right? We know this, right? So again, we're talking about bride price. So is bride price, so the fact that a guy said, I've paid you bride price so I can abuse you, does that make it the reason why people abuse? What about in the Western world where people don't pay bride price? They still abuse each other. They do it emotionally, verbally, and physically, right? So this is again another classic example of people trying to point fingers at anything but self, anything but the guy in the mirror. Okay? We need to abolish this culture. Why? I don't think it's going to solve the actual problem. Okay? I don't think it's going to solve the actual problem of domestic abnormal use of a human being. I don't think so. I think that one thing that can solve that problem is, well, number one, we already know vetting, right? Making sure you understand how to pick up red flags, a spirit of discernment, but more importantly, how to handle a situation where you find yourself in abuse in a marriage, in a relationship that's already ongoing. This is the part that most people don't talk about, right? And they don't talk about the part that you're not always able to pick up this bad behavior in the beginning. They don't talk about conflict resolution. They don't talk about resolution. Most people don't. All right. Let me go back here and play this video again. Let's see here. I'm gonna play that video for you again. Let me just make sure my speaker is in the right place. Let me pick up another video. So this is what she said to, let me see, because I don't want to dwell too much time on. All right, so here's one. Let's open this one and play.
Doing more harm than, of course it is. So just scrap the damn thing. So with bride price, you might think, oh, it's not hot.
All right, so if you look at this, this person said, my dad said mine will cost ₦1 million because I am educated. Right, because I'm educated, right? ₦1 million. Let's find out what the ₦1 million bride price, okay? So they're saying in that part of Nigeria, eastern part of Nigeria, in certain part of Nigeria. So there's one part, there's two parts, there's two states where it's all 35 naira, okay? The bride price is 35 naira. Let's do the math. And this person just put a comment on the screen and says, pretty devoted, said, my dad said it to be 1 million naira. Let's do how much that is in dollars, right? Okay. So let's first of all convert naira to USD, right? That's basically less than a dime, right? Let's just call it 1 cent, a penny. Okay. So that's in 2 states. I think in that part of Nigeria, there's probably about 5 states or so, 5, 6 states, something like that. I don't recall right now. Let's look at it. Let's look at Nigeria. Let's look at Nigeria map. Let's educate ourselves today, right? Nigeria map by state. Let's say by state. By states. There you go. All right, good. I think I can find a good one here. All right, great. Okay, awesome. All right, so this is the area we're talking about right here. Let me blow this up. All right, this is awesome. let me just make sure I'm sharing my screen with you. All right, there you go. All right, great. So this is Nigeria right here. I'm from this state called Ondo right here. Ondo on the closer to the west side. Okay, right after that river that divides Nigeria. We're talking about the southwest. Okay, so I don't know if you can see my cursor. I think you can actually, right? You can see my cursor. I'm not sure. Anyway, yeah, so it's called Ondo. I'm from there. My legacy is from there. I'm from there. My parents are from there, right? So this part, the part we're talking about right here is the lower western side of Nigeria where I'm just gonna read really quickly so you can see these different states. So you have the Imo State, Abia State, River State, Ebonyi, Cross River State, this area right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 different states. Maybe some part of Benue, right? And about 2 states here, particularly some of the main cities there, because it varies from city to city. It's only less than a penny to quote unquote buy a wife, right? But this lady put a comment on the screen and said it's 1 million naira. The father was already saying it's going to be 1 million naira. How much is that in US dollars? That's $2,400. Okay, 2,400. That's not bad because she's educated. Now, because of the standard of living in Nigeria, that's a lot of money. Okay, so some of you may be in the United States and say $2,300 is not a lot of money. It is a lot of money. Okay, it's a lot of money. Okay, so again, it's just part of the culture. It's just a practice, it's just something they do as part of the celebration. It's part of the beauty of the heritage. And you just find these days that people that are not able to maintain relationships, people that are not able to dig in deeper, are why people are having trouble in romantic relationships in particular. You have those people coming and saying, yeah, let's abolish this, let's abolish that. People are just looking for things to blame for that are not relevant to the issues. If you have terrible men in society that think abuse is okay, They just think abuse is okay. You could abolish all you want. They're just still terrible people. Okay? There are people that don't have any self-control. People that feel like the only way they can get their message across to another human being is assault. You know? It's just bad behavior. Bad behavior is bad behavior. Now, I get that we want to dig in and do like a root cause analysis and see why people are doing this. I get that. But again, we're losing our ways. We're losing our ways in trying to do that. And again, this behavior, you can see it in any culture around the world. Everyone thinks something is terrible with their own culture. And they don't look inwards. They don't look into the individuals and say, no, this is not necessarily the culture. There's some things with culture we can change, absolutely, right? But for the most part, it's just not necessary. What people need to be facing, how do you build a successful relationship? How do you maintain a marriage, right? How do you nurture your relationships within a marriage? The underlying relationship is much more important than the paper, the marriage, right? How do you do that? These are the things we should be talking about. What would make a normal man become abnormal to the point that he feels the only way he can get his message across to his wife is to physically assault her, or vice versa, because women are doing it too. We just know that the majority that makes it to the data points, watch what I just said. A lot of men are not necessarily coming out to say my wife abused me. Okay, a lot of men don't do that, because somehow it's socially acceptable for your woman to smack you at the back of your head during an argument. You don't run to the street and say, again, there's a lot going on that we don't talk about because we don't get to it. So the issue here is not bride price. Let me see what my sister have to say. I disagree with her on here. I go on our show sometimes and I directly, but this time around we are doing it this way. This was the last submission that she made. No, actually, there's another video that I feel like we should. Then I'm gonna play this video. Let's see. I think it's this video. There you go. This one. 64959. Okay, I'm gonna find it and play for you. Share video. And now this one right here.
Wow, I don't know.
So this video right here is gonna paint a little bit more of the picture of what people are gonna do. So just again, I've spoken a certain aspect of it, which is I don't think we need to abolish. I think we need to address other things, right? But I also want to speak about this other side of it because again, some people take something so simple, a part of our culture, and they abuse it to the point that So I want you to listen to this young lady. She said a lot that I felt like it's kind of sad, but it still doesn't equate to abolishing bride price as a culture, right? Again, it's like it's being taken out of context by people who just want to be bad people.
How you're able to do all this? Because even waiting here, I have headache already.
The
But
joy
you're
of the
doing
Lord is
it.
my strength.
Thank you very much. All right. First thing, I don't support.
Now you have to listen a little bit closer because the accents are strong. So if you're an American, just listen because this is very important. Okay.
The bride price practices. I am Igbo. My name is Chioma. I'm from Anambra State.
Okay.
But then I was born in Abakaliki, Ebonyi State.
Right.
We are all Igbo, but the culture differs a little.
Okay.
In Ebonyi State, if your bride price has been paid and you go there and you give birth to a child, if the marriage is not favorable, you have the right to leave that marriage because you have paid with a life. And your parents or whoever you're mandated to return a bride price because you have given a life to that family.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. And I really appreciate that because the woman can be free when things are not going on well. She can.
So she's saying that you can leave, but you have to pay the bride price back. Now, again, when you're having a heavy amount of money against people, for bride price, right? If you're doing that, let's say some kind of 2 million naira because she's a medical doctor, 1 million naira, anything like that. That money went to the father, who is just a village guy somewhere. When it's time to return the money because she wants to leave the marriage, a lot of times they're not able to come up with the money. So again, if it's some kind of money that has to be returned, again, this has become transactional. Okay, the marriage has fallen apart, but then they're not able to return the money, right? Again, we're having all these money conversations when it's supposed to be about marriage and a romantic relationship, right? But this is how messy it gets. So you can understand why people are coming from a place of let's abolish. They're not exactly crazy. There's just a lot going on, and that's what she's talking about.
And say, you know what, I can't do this and I'm going. And nobody, no uncle, no father, nobody can say you can't go because you have paid with a life. That's number one. Number two is, if I, from Anambra, if I decide that I don't want my bride price to be paid, like that all this is rubbish, I'm going with the man, we can do court marriage, you can do whatever, and everybody can do whatever they want, that I don't care. That thing, I can do it now and move on and have children and do everything. But the thing is, by tradition and by culture, the children I'll have with that man belongs to my father, no matter what I do.
Yeah, I think I understand that part of the culture.
Yeah.
I don't agree
and then
with it.
If I choose to,
I don't agree with it, but I know about it.
Well, Auntie Bridget, it's not something that you have to agree with, right? Your agreement or lack thereof is not relevant. It's a culture, right? And anyway, I get it. I get what she's saying. But she said if she moves on after a marriage and she go have babies with another person without proper bride price, I think that's what she's saying. Hopefully, I got that right. That those children belong to her father because the bride price were never paid. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I believe
if I, from Anambra, if I decide that I don't want my bride price to be paid, like that all this is rubbish, I'm going with the man, we can do court marriage, you can do whatever, and everybody can do whatever they want, that I don't care. That thing.
So if you want to be rebellious and you want to say things like, oh, no, I don't give a shit about all that kind of culture or tradition nonsense. I'm just going to go marry, court marriage, do the white wedding, and, fuck parents and family members and all that kind of stuff. Those children belong to her father because the bride price were never paid.
I can do it now and move on and have children and do everything. But the thing is, by tradition and by culture, the children I'll have with that man belongs to my father, no matter what I do.
Yeah, I think I understand that part of the culture.
Yeah.
I don't agree
and then
with it.
If I choose to,
I don't agree with it, but I know about it. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I believe that
and then
children should belong to they should just, it takes two people to create children. Your father didn't create the children with you, so why should they have your father's name?
But you're talking about biologically speaking. Again, there's so many aspects to what makes us humans and not just random animals, right? If it was just biology, we'd just be another animal out on the streets. We won't be able to create technology. We won't be able to create lifestyle by design, having options, emotions, socialization is a big part of it, right? So, of course, as human beings, we've created institutions. Part of that institution is, like tribal, religious, marriage, right? Judicial. Like we created structure for society because we're humans. And part of that is like, we assigned a different type of meaning to those children when the bride price was not paid. This were the ways that societies either became societies, they conquered other societies, or territories, and territories were taken over by kings and warriors of the past. These are the things that makes us humans. So we don't get to get stuck on biology or technicalities. That's not how this shit works. I'm sorry. I wish it was different, but it's not how it works.
Whether you pay bride price or not, I don't agree with that aspect of culture, but I respect it. That's what I mean.
And you can disagree with it, but back in the days, there are ways that you disagree with stuff like that, and they will order the soldiers to go bundle you and that guy into, and they will lock him up forever, and then you come back to the household, or they will take all your children and take them into slavery. I mean, there's so many things that civilization has helped us improved on, but again, I don't think it's all the way accurate to say, hey, biologically, technically, who owns the baby owns the baby. That's not how society works. If it was, we wouldn't be humans.
Right. So if the children, it is said that the children belong to my father, and my father, and everything that I own belongs to my father, because I'm still my father's child.
Right.
Till my father hands me over to a new person, and that person takes over the
And that's no matter how old you get.
authority.
Right. I understand it
If
now.
I have houses, if I have anything, if anything I have belongs to my father. But soon as he transfers that right to the man, even if he collects 5 naira, 10.
So once bride price is paid, you become the man's property. Okay. Now it's supposed to be just a customary thing to do, but again, someone is abusing it, right?
Naira, 20 naira, 100 naira from that man. Even if I own mansions, automatically they have transferred all of me to him.
You see, good luck. That's a problem for me. Because you see, we are talking about equality, and you see that the culture, you see, when there's a lot going on in Africa in terms of relationship and marriages, and we talk about abuse here every day. Can you, the way you've analyzed it now, I know you are talking about the culture, how it is in your hometown in Anambra State, but can you just see from your simple explanation how you are being transferred from your father to your husband? So
yes,
when
that's what I'm
do you
saying.
become your own person as a woman?
I am saying that in my culture, that's why I don't like the bride price practices.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I'm just trying to bring that out. Sorry.
Yeah.
I know you don't agree with it, but I'm saying that this is also very unfair to women. So
yes,
technically, the culture is basically saying that as a woman, you
are
not
nothing.
you are nobody. Is either you belong to your father or you belong to a husband.
Yeah.
So is it making sense why there's serious problems right now, right? Especially men, we're responsible for this. Okay, it's basically men that want to fight to not abolish this type of tradition. It's basically men that's doing that fight. Is men that will sit as kingsmen or next to the king of any society and then try to fight against this kind of rebellious fight against tradition and stuff like that. But then we're supposed to maintain the integrity of the system, right? No one should be taking the idea of bride price to as a way to manipulate or abuse their spouse. But men are doing that, right? So we create these institutions and culture and customs and tradition, but we don't maintain the integrity of it, right? I think the integrity has been compromised once you have one of us go out there and say, I paid your bride price, so I'm gonna beat you up. If you say things like that or you say anything like that, sometimes we banter and we say, I banter like that before, like, hey, I paid the bride price. And my wife, based on the story I told you earlier, would say, no, it was given back, right? But actually, you were not supposed to know that it was given back like that, right? The family would know, right? But you pay the bride price, you pay. Even if it was given back, it was still paid, right? Traditionally speaking, right? That means you actually brought the right, you did the rites, and you did the rituals and all that kind of stuff. But the point I'm making here is this: the idea that we are allowing such a beautiful thing by itself we allow the integrity of it to be compromised by bad behavior such as abusing your spouse. Then you have women, again, anything you give women, they'll multiply. Then you give them the audacity or the right, actually not audacity, the actual right to say, you know what? This bride price of a thing is making people start to attach a dollar price to the value of women. And this is why they think they can manipulate or maltreat women, right? So they have a point. I still don't think it needs to be abolished. I think the problem is just bad people, right? And I think the onus is still on us as men to call this kind of people to order and say, you don't have the right to bring up the bride price when you're actively abusing your wife. Then you give her the automatic rights to say, you know what, we're returning the bride price. That's not what you wanted. What you wanted was to build a family, right? These are the real issues. The real issue is not the bride price. The real issue is the person who was basically manipulating the idea of a bride price as a weapon, okay, against their own partner. And we basically ignored the actual conversation only to try to drag bride price and eliminate it. Well, guess what's gonna happen? People still abuse their spouse where they don't pay bride price. You never really address the real problem. And we do this a lot with many of these other topics.
Yes.
But you are an individual as a woman. You are a human being.
Yes. And the problem again is, even as a woman, in my father's house, when I talk, I am my father's child. As soon as they transfer that right, that man takes over. My family, in a way, not in many ways, in a way, they lose right to fight for me. Because the new man now feels like he owns me. You can see in Otinachi's case, the mother tried to question the man and he said, you know what, I owe you nothing. I paid everything. And the mother could not talk because the father was not there.
So this is some of the reasons why some people's wives will run away, like literally run away from the house and not go back to their family because they know the family is going to try to send them back because, again, it's like a thing of taboo for you to run back from your husband's house, right? Listen, for all I know, the solution may be just to abolish the whole idea of bride price, okay? It just may be, okay? Because, again, after all, slavery was abolished, right? It's supposed to be, right? Right? Because the idea is you're buying human beings, children, women, and even men, right? And because that turned out to be a measure to abuse other human beings, right, or devalue other human beings, it was abolished, at least in most civilized society, right? So it just may have to be that way. So I'm not all the way disagreeing with the idea. The part of it that I disagree with is not addressing the actual issue, but pointing fingers at everything and anything we find around us. We all do that, and it's just bad. It just makes things worse. The real issue is abuse. Okay? And there's something going on in a human being's head who feels the need to abuse another person, either verbally, emotionally, or physically. None of it can create any kind of healthy relationship. And we don't want to not have that conversation and run straight to abolishing something that other people have done and they haven't abused each other, right?
Man to man, father to child, he can say, this is my child, I don't care, I take my child back. You can do, he can fight. But whereby the father is no longer alive, and the uncle probably does not like the mother or does not like the girl or does not like anything, he can decide that, you know what, I am not returning the bride price.
There you go. So that's another issue. You have sometimes the father is no longer alive, and then the uncles and just extended family members will milk the situation. Again, abuse the situation. They start creating lists and say, hey, we want this, we want that, we want that, in the name of tradition. So again, once you have, and these are mostly men that are making this call, right? If we want to retain the integrity of the culture and the tradition of bride price, we definitely have to have a way, at least a way, to call this kind of people to order and say, no, you don't get to say that. You can't, no. Maybe it should be written in some kind of contract or something like, this is not an exchange or right to abuse, quote unquote, the product we're selling you. I know it sounds terrible. It sounds terrible, right? So again, I'm saying maybe eventually, maybe 10, 20, 30 years from now, they will have to abolish this whole thing called bride price. But I'm just saying that doesn't stop. That wouldn't necessarily stop DV.
And that is it. You are stuck.
Yeah.
You are stuck. You can't do anything.
It's
So
a problem.
it's kind of it's like a trap. And where the another thing that this does to women is that when they are discussing the bride price during the marriage, the mother, who is the mother to the girl, she's not even welcomed in the room where it is being discussed at all.
So,
Yeah.
so I think you've heard enough. I think this is a case, a situation where women are just used as properties, okay, by a few selected abusers and just bad people in our society. I think that's what it is. But this is very similar to many of the other situations we have going on. Um, but this is a real life example of how women can be oppressed by her own father, the husband who married her, uncles in her family, in the other family, right? And in a society where we know that they actually have choice and choices. Yeah, that's not gonna fly for too long. Something has to be done. Some kind of reform we have to happen. A reform and abolish it. I agree with a reform. Some maybe abolish it, right? But again, one person is enough. One person being abused is enough for us to say, hey, you got to do something about this, right? I'm not really a big fan of just randomly turning around and blaming relationship issues on culture. But again, if right out of the mouth of these people, if they keep saying things like, "Hey, I paid your bride price, I could do whatever I want," if they keep saying things like that, then you know that's not cool. We have to do something about that, right? So let's hear her final take really quickly. She had a
If you are, please give this video a thumbs up. I've been here for almost 3 hours now. If you've enjoyed this conversation, you appreciate the quality people that I brought tonight to have this conversation with, to have this chat, please give the video a thumbs up. Give it a thumbs up, guys. We have very, very few thumbs up. Give it a like. So in summary, I'm just going to say that I think women should have a voice about this thing. Most traditions and cultures all across Nigeria are highly oppressive to women. If you are saying that the bride price is for us, shouldn't you have a say about whether we want it or not? A lot of women are saying, I don't want it. So is our voice not valid? I think it is. It should be. All right. I think it should be.
yeah. So I think again, I don't think. All right, I'm a little bit on the fence about it. I'll say this: there's definitely should be in any society where this is happening. Uh, there should be some kind of authority you can call on people that are abusing the idea of bride price as a weapon against their very own spouse. Absolutely. You know, there should also be some kind of contract or something that you lost your money. Not only did you lose your money, we're taking our child back if you physically abuse her, right? But nonetheless, I don't think it's really the direct cause of domestic abnormal use of another human being. I think we just need to continue to make noise about what it takes to build a romantic relationship and what kind of power does a woman have too. Like, because women have a lot of power in any romantic relationship. The only time it seems like it's not that way is when you don't know how to engage such power, right? When you don't understand the power of the dynamics between the masculine and the feminine energy, you will suffer. You will think it's about any one of these superficial, outside, outward things, right? Your power is inside of you. It is, right? You have power, but you may just need someone to help you point out what that power is. In the meanwhile, you should not sit in abuse. Absolutely not. It's non-negotiable. Any type of abuse. If you feel abused, right? Step back and make sure that it's healthy before you even move forward. I'm not even talking about moving back in or moving forward. Or before you move forward in any ramifications, step back and make sure that you are healthy enough to move forward. Because if you don't make sure of that, you're going to probably end up hurting another person, right? So it's very important. You know, I thought this conversation was a great conversation amongst the panel. Go check her out. Her name is Obojo Oyibo. You can rewind the video if you want to see that. But I thought it was a good conversation. For those of you that think heaven is in Africa, not exactly, right? This is yet another example why you need to take care of your own, right? And stop running away from your problems or your shadow. Hopefully you've been enlightened and educated. I'll see you on the next one, and peace.